World War II, a very deadly conflict which saw the use and employment of very many weapons. The most interesting of these, of course, being the small arms. With the United States, you would have more extremely revolutionary rifles, such as the M1 Garand. And others, you would have ones that were simply twists on older platforms, such as the K98k, which was simply another twist on a already extremely common rifle, which was designed in 1898. Today, we are talking about this particular rifle. Why? Because the one I have has an extremely interesting tale. So going over the historic aspect of this rifle, which is the airsoft version, of course, in Minecraft, theoretically. The overall historic aspect of this rifle is kind of interesting because it was, in fact, used by Israeli forces for a long time, up until their 1967 Six Days War, I believe. But it's also ironic because, of course, these were used by the Germans during World War II. So used by the Israelis, and then before that used by the Germans. A little weird. But these are pretty interesting rifles. Mine is in 308, and I discovered recently that there are some that are not chambered in 308 and still are chambered in the old 8mm Mauser cartridge, which is interesting. But overall, features of this are pretty much aesthetically the same as to just normal World War II German Kar98ks. It's nothing really different as far as operating procedure goes. I mean, it's pretty much exactly the same rifle from what I can tell. But how the Israelis acquired these rifles was fairly interesting. You would assume that they would have came from more Western allies like Britain or the United States or something or another. Hey, kitty cat. Shoo-shoo. All right. They didn't. To put it simply, they did not. Their most support, surprisingly enough, actually came from the Soviet Union, which after World War II, it's extremely surprising. But Joseph Stalin's ultimate motive with that was to establish some sort of a communist state in the Middle East, which it didn't turn out that way, luckily enough, but that's pretty much why he was supporting them. But he did not authorize the Soviet Union to give the Israelis any rifles in any real mass acquirement or purchase directly from the Soviet Union. But instead, what he did was he had a newly occupied Soviet satellite state, that being the Czech Republic, or I guess back then it would have been Czechoslovakia, but he had the Czechoslovakia, he had them basically start giving out Kar98k rifles to the Israelis through trade deals that were like, so pretty much he could keep his hands clean from saying that he ever gave the Israelis any weaponry at all, which was fairly smart on his part, I will say. But the reason for that being that the Czechoslovakia, they had huge stocks of just about any sort of World War II German weapon that you could imagine. MP40s, VEs, MG34s, MG42s, all of it. They had a lot. And they basically sold all of that to the Israelis, surprisingly enough. But that's pretty much how that went down. And from what I know, these are broke down into 4 basic groups. The first one being that they're just normal run-of-the-mill German-produced rifles, still in their 7.92 by 57 Mauser chambering. And that's pretty much all there is to say about that. I don't know if those have any proof marks having to do with Israel or not, but I guess that's that. And then second up is Czech-produced rifles in 7.92 by 57. And those will have a few varying features, and I can't really place all of them. And then the third group, which this kind of belongs to, is the FN produced rifles that were then shipped to Israel. And those were produced in FN Herstal, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this one is from Herstal, or at least the receiver is. But that's how they got some of their rifles. And then the fourth and final group is pretty much a weird combination of the Israelis' own production of these rifles from their own factories, and being a mix of the other 3 groups, pretty much. Like this one's a pretty big mix, has 7.62 stamped on the bridge here, then with an Israeli proof mark, same thing on the side right here, but it still has that FN receiver. I've heard that some of these are supposed to have notches in the side of the stock, but mine doesn't have that for some reason. And these are also supposed to have like a unique form of front sight hood, but mine also was lacking that whenever I acquired this. But other than that, that's kind of the whole history of it. These were used, of course, initially whenever Israel gained its independence and its recognition as a state in 1948, and they were used in 1967 to some degree, I'm pretty sure. Some of these were even turned into sniper rifles and were just given scopes. Scopes were a bunch to look at the time, but you know, it's pretty interesting. Other than that though, that's kind of like all there is to know about like the technical details about this rifle and its history. It's really interesting. The stock is in pretty good condition on mine. The metal and the receiver, the barrel, all that is in varying degrees of being okay and then looking not okay. Like there's no real splotches of rust, but there's a few minor pits here and there. Other than that, everything on this rifle is pretty much functional. There's nothing real special about it. I haven't added anything to it. I was considering getting a new front sight post for it, but other than that, I just put a sling on it and that's it. But yeah, it's pretty much a really neat piece of history, a really awkward thing to find in history because, you know, it's a German rifle that was being used by Israelis, which is absolutely crazy to think about. And furthermore, they acquired them through the Czechoslovakians. It's an absolutely crazy thing to think about, but yeah, it's just a really neat piece of history. I like it. I was really fortunate to actually acquire this. I got it for way less than it was worth. Acquired it from someone who was not an FFL. They were just selling it privately. It was just a small collection that they were just trying to get rid of, you know. One of those cases. But yeah, other than that, this was pretty much all there is to say about the rifle. It's in decent condition. Really kind of that niche between being worth a lot and being worth almost nothing at all. So you just means you get to shoot it a little bit more. But other than that, that's all there is to say about this. Yeah, there's really nothing else to say about this rifle. It's old, it's neat, it's a really good piece of military surplus, and it's just a cool little find that I was really fortunate to run across. But that's kind of all there is to say about it.
Well, YouTube, now comes the time to test the accuracy of this thing at roughly like 100 yards. Oh, by the way, all film work in this video, or well, for the most part, there wasn't film discussing this, has been thanks to my very good friend, the camera guy. But anyway, other than that, we're gonna shoot the steel plate I made, the really janky steel plate I made right quick. 5 rounds. We're gonna see if I can hit it all 5 times. I doubt that I can. All right. I don't know what I hit, but I hit something on the target. Hit it that time. I think that was a miss. Well, that looks like it's about it. In conclusion, thank you guys for staying and watching through the entire video if you did. Best way to support the channel is to like and subscribe. Other than that, thank you to the camera guy again for filming, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a good day.